Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Angus,
And my name is Dan.
and we're here for a Game Week 40 preview. The international break is nearly over. We're recording Wednesday night. Game Week 40 starts on Friday night, so we've nearly made it. Dan, you looking forward to it being back now?
I am. I think we mentioned on the pod with Jamie that I was getting a bit bored, and that was only after one England game. So, I just had a little break, time to refresh, and now we're going into mad season. Uh, Last 7, 8, 9, 10 games, however many you've got, plus the playoffs. Looks like Fulham are going to win and Bournemouth are probably up, but playoffs are crazy and there's still relegation up for grabs, especially with the key game at the bottom of the week. So, yeah, looking forward to the end of the season and the carnage that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're sort of in the home stretch now. We've had this last sort of international break, and it's all going to be happening now. Like you say, there's quite a bit on the table, so yeah, looking forward to it. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about each of the teams that are doubling in game week 40. We're just going to talk briefly about the double they have and maybe one or two of our favourite assets from them, or players you might want to look at, and then we'll get into the questions and predictions. We're not going to talk too much about the single game week teams because I doubt very many of you are looking at them this week, so we'll focus on the doubles this week. So the first one we'll get into, I'm just going by alphabetical order here, is Blackpool, who have a double of Forest at home and Preston away. Dan, what do you think about Blackpool this game week?
Um, they're not a team I would go out of my way to bring in players, but they haven't been all season, to be honest. I think Bowler's the main one. Um, Interestingly, they do double again in 44 against Luton and Barnsley, which is probably a better double. Um, so if you want to be prepared and bring in a bowler for maybe a goal fest or something like that, I don't hate it, but I think as we'll go through the list, I think there's just better options elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Bowler's the one that I would be sort of looking at, but like you say, it wouldn't necessarily be where I would be looking. But yeah, I mean, we've managed to avoid them and their points all season, so maybe we're not quite right on this one. But yeah, it's a tougher double, I think, on paper as well. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking at them. Next team we've got is Bournemouth. So they've got a double of Bristol City at home and West Brom away. So Dan, what do you think about Bournemouth this week?
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Parker keeps to the attacking style of play they did against Huddersfield. If they do, then they should comfortably beat Bristol City. West Brom could be a bit trickier. I've got two currently in Solanke and Zamora. Probably won't get a third, but I think we know they've got the doubles coming up in 44 and 45. So maybe after this game week, I'll get a third one. We've said it all before. Christie and Billing are good options. Travers, if you've got the goalie, I don't hate. So yeah, not a terrible double.
Yeah, I think it does sort of look like a good one for attacking players. I think if you're wanting to go there, I think Bournemouth are one of these teams where they sort of have plausible sort of assets throughout the team. Like say Travers, he's someone I've considered with looking at the goalkeeper position. Zamora, Billing, Christie, Solanke, even Anthony to an extent as well. So I think they're one that you can look at. I mean, I imagine a lot of people are certainly already on Solanke, maybe on 2 or 3 already, but they're one I'd probably be looking at this point as well, particularly with the other doubles down the line. But I mean, not to pile on Bristol City too much, because they could still do all right, but I think particularly goals against Bristol City are something that have come quite readily. So I'd certainly be looking at that end for Bournemouth, and they do have good assets there. But the next team we have are Coventry, who have a double of Blackburn at home and Nottingham Forest away. I know a lot of people are on Coventry assets at the moment. A number of them are on multiple Coventry assets at the moment. But what do you think of Coventry this week, Dan?
Yeah, I don't think I would be bringing Coventry assets in. I've got Moore and Victor. I'm not overly happy with having Victor. Might get him out. I'm not sure. Basically, I'm definitely bringing in Mitrovic for Grant. It's just whether I do one more transfer. As I said in the previous podcast, I think I've already got 13, 14 doublers, so it's not an issue of bringing in. It's whether the upside might be better in another striker going forwards. And also, I don't have Brennan Johnson, which is not ideal. So with Coventry, Blackburn and Forest, like, I wouldn't be surprised. They could get 0 points. They could get 6. Wouldn't be surprised if they got 3 or 4 either. So I'm not against playing the assets. I'll probably be playing more this week, but I wouldn't be bringing any in, I don't think.
No, I think if you've got Moore, you can play him. I think if you've got Victor, you can play him. I think if you've got O'Hare, you can play him. If you've got one of the defenders, you can play them. I mean, it's not necessarily going to be the best option this week. They might not be terrible. I know, as I said, we're recording on Wednesday night. I know Ben Brereton Diaz played for Chile last night, but not sure about what sort of condition he'll be in. And expecting him to make an instant impact for Blackburn might be expecting too much. So they might still have some goal scoring issues, which could help you there. But as we've said previously, Victor might be a little bit of a rotation risk now. We've seen it recently. And it is a tough double. So I certainly wouldn't be bringing them in. But I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to sell them. If you're looking to get elsewhere, they might be the ones that are expendable this week. But I wouldn't be rushing to sell them either. But the next team we have are Fulham. They play QPR away and Middlesbrough away. So Dan, what do you think about Fulham this week?
I've got 2. I've got Wilson and, well, I only have 1 actually, but I will have 2 definitely. Bringing Mitrovic back in. I'll probably just go in with 2. I think QPR and Middlesbrough can score against Fulham. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe Fulham got 4 points, but I think they're good options. They always are. So that we know about Fulham. I'm not sure I'd be bringing them in unless maybe you're playing like a midfield Dynamos. Then I think it's worthwhile. But not much to say about Fulham. Not the easiest double.
No, it's not the easiest double, and we've seen sometimes they can struggle against teams where you might think that they would win. Sometimes you think they're going to have a tough game and they dispatch the team. So it can go both ways with them, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Whichever asset you've got, I think people are sort of narrowed down now to, your Nico Williams, Harry Wilson, Carvalho. I think if you still have Cabano hanging around or Mitrovic, I think you play your assets this week. Like, you're not going to Fulham have a double. You're not going to leave them out.
Would you bring any in? Obviously, I'm bringing Mitrovic back in, but would you bring one in, get the third if you didn't have the third?
I'd strongly consider it, but yeah. I understand, depending on team circumstance, why people might look elsewhere, particularly given that on paper it's a tougher double for them. I think the other one that people will probably be looking to have this week though is Harry Wilson, and I do think that it might not be great for them, but just to be aware of the risks if you don't have Harry Wilson this week. It can end up being the case with Harry Wilson quite a bit that, there'll be times where you don't own him and you get away with it because he frustrates everyone who owns him. And then there'll be the weeks where he goes off and you're sitting there sort of despairing that you don't own him. So he's a tough one. And I think I wouldn't hate if people are on, like, say, Mitrovic and Wilson already, if they were looking at someone like Nico Williams or Fabio Carvalho, the two other ones we've spoken about. But I probably wouldn't be venturing beyond those. Like I'd be writing off a Cabano or someone like that. And I think it would depend a bit on what your boost strategy was as well for this week. But we'll move on to the next team, which is Luton. A double of Millwall at home and Peterborough away. Dan, what are your thoughts on Luton for this one?
Well, I think the main question is, do we have any centre-backs? Still don't know. We probably won't know. Or Jones might say, yeah, we got back one or two back or something like that. So I don't think we're going to 100% know. I think a lot of people are probably definitely on one defender, whether it's Bree or Naismith. I've currently got them both. Which I don't think is terrible. I know a lot of people started moving for either Cornick or Adebayo. Don't hate that either with this week. As I mentioned before, I think Cornick won't start the Millwall game, but it's a double and he'll probably start against Peterborough, which is probably the game you want him to play. So yeah, I think it's a good double, and I think you should probably invest if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will depend a little bit, which we won't know, on the, like, you have to sort of gamble on the state of the defence in terms of who's there. And yeah, we won't know. So I'm on Naismith. I'll probably start him. But, even someone like a Bree, you're not necessarily going to know what the situation is with the defence and then, where he might be playing until that first game kicks off, really. But yeah, I think, someone like a Bree, Naismith, Adebayo, they're all still good options. Like you say, Cornick's not the worst option either.
My gut with the defence is, I think Lockyer will be there. He was on the bench and he did come on in the last game, but he obviously wasn't right. So they didn't want to play him, but they had to. So I think he's going to be there, and I think probably Naismith. Apart from that, though, I'm not entirely sure, and it is a bit of a lottery, really.
Yeah,
we could have like Bradley back or someone like that who's been out long term after his operation. We just don't know. So
yeah, that's the fun of Luton. You don't know until the lineup drops.
I don't think I'd be bringing a defender in. I can understand bringing Adebayo or Cornick maybe.
Yeah, and I think if you have your Luton defenders, you probably play them this week though.
Yeah.
Next team we've got is Middlesbrough, who play Peterborough away and Fulham at home. What are your thoughts on Middlesbrough?
Yeah, Middlesbrough, tricky one. I got rid of McNair. Obviously, he had that injury doubt away at Northern Ireland. I'm guessing he's going to be back. That was probably just a precaution. I think I'm going to go without. To be honest, McNair is the only one I'd look at. Forwards, we don't know who's going to start. Obviously, Balogun's been away with the under-21, so whether he'll play is up in the air, especially if Sporer is back. You'll find as players have been away, sometimes because they've missed training, they have a game plan where they'll play someone else for the first game. But yeah, for me, it's McNair, and that's probably it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say someone like Isaiah Jones, but I don't think I'd be going there this week. Balogun has obviously gone away and done well with the under-21s, but whether they sort of then look, particularly with the two games in 4 or 5 days, and look at, they can give him the day off against Peterborough and have him ready to have a go at Fulham. They could look at it that way, and like you say, so I'd probably be a bit reluctant to go there. If I was going to go with a Middlesbrough attacker, it probably would be Balogun. But I think McNair is probably the only one, because I don't think, even with some of the other players, like, who's going to play left wing back, you can't say for certain. There's been a number of sort of changing spots there. So I think, it'd probably be McNair, and at a push, Balogun for me. The next team we've got is Millwall. Their double is Luton away and Swansea at home. Dan, what do you think about Millwall?
Yeah, I like this double. I think the Luton Millwall game, I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be quite tight and edgy, and so I think you'll get returns, maybe a half a clean sheet from someone like a Malone or a McNamara or Wallace, Murray Wallace, and then I really like Jed Wallace with not just this game week, but also the rest of the fixtures. I think he could be a really good option moving forward. Problem is, I don't think people are going to want to go without Harry Wilson, and can you afford Wallace, Wilson, Solanke, and Mitrovic? It's very hard, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jed Wallace matched Wilson throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, that's what I think it's a good set, especially that Swansea game. I think that could be ideal, especially from set pieces. Wouldn't be surprised if they beat Swansea.
Yeah, I think Murray Wallace, Malone. I think Jed Wallace, like you say, is a good pick, and Benicophobe. Obviously, he missed the game before the break because of being on loan from Stoke, but he was doing quite well before that, and I think that there are far worse options if you're looking for a forward, particularly, say, if you're wanting to move off someone like Victor, or I've seen a few people wanting to move off Sharp. I think Afobe could be a decent pick this week. But yeah, it's not a bad double for them. I think if you've got your Millwall players, you're probably playing them. But I do think they're an interesting one. And like you say, Jeb Wallace, particularly with a view to some of the games they have afterwards, they could be a decent team to go with this week as well. The next team we've got is Nottingham Forest. They play Blackpool away and Coventry at home. Dan, what do you think about Forest this week?
Well, we're going to see now if Forest are good enough for the playoffs. The fans seem to think so. The form's been probably promotion form for a long period of time. Obviously, they've had games cancelled mainly due to the FA Cup, and now we're going to see. To be honest, it's not the easiest double. Blackpool's tricky place to go, even though they're mid-table. I think Critchley is still going to want to pick up points and do well. And Coventry, well, we've seen Coventry hammer Sheffield United, beat Fulham this season. I think both of those were at home though. That being said, because they've got so many games, like a double up is probably the least you want moving forward. I've got Spence, Brennan Johnson. I need to get in, and it might just be I just keep Victor and bring in Brennan Johnson this week and just have him for the long term. So yeah, I Davis is a decent punt up front, I think. And even someone like Gardner, I'm not really a fan, and I don't think I would go there. I think there's better options, but he is 5.2, and it's not terrible. I don't think, and I think he's on some set pieces, so it's probably not a terrible pick, but I think there's better options. It'd probably be fourth or fifth choice for me.
Yeah, I think that they're one you probably have to look at, because it is still one of the better doubles. I think Forest's, even if it's not as easy as it might seem, it's still probably one of the better sort of doubles that a team has. Like you say, Spence, Brennan Johnson, I think they're probably the main ones to be looking at. There are some other interesting ones. I think someone like James Garner's an interesting pick. I think Keenan Davis is one you can look at. I know a number of people, like I said, with Afobe are looking for a striker at the moment, and I think Keenan Davis is a decent pick for that. I probably wouldn't go too much further than those, but I do think there's a few options there, and I think Spence and Brennan Johnson are probably going to be important to have this week. I think that they probably, certainly Johnson probably helps you with a couple of different boosts this week, which we'll come on to later, but I do think that makes him sort of a one to really look at this week. The next one we've got, which I think I sense we'll probably have less on, is Peterborough, who have a double of Middlesbrough at home and Luton at home. Dan, do you have much to advise people on with Peterborough?
I think it's Clark Harris, isn't it? He started to get on pretty decent form the last few games. Got a brace. Yeah, he got a brace against QPR. I think that Peterborough Luton game's going to be quite open. Just the way Luton will play, if Peterborough come and play like that, they could score a goal. And then they play Bristol City, Blackburn, Barnsley, which ain't terrible. So it's Clark Harris, I think. We're back at square one at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think he's probably the only one. But you're not going to go there.
No, you're not.
The next one we've got is Preston, who have a double of Derby away and Blackpool at home. What are your thoughts on Preston, Dan?
Yeah, I like this double. Might be a bit on the beach, and with Ryan Lowe probably building for next year, he might be a bit experimental. Maybe try a few things out. I think Daniel Johnson is the main option. I don't hate Archer up front either. Although he has been away with England under was it under 20, I think?
I think so.
Yeah, so maybe similar to Balogun, maybe they don't play him the first game. But yeah, Daniel Johnson's the main option, I think. You could go DRB like you, Angus. Would you recommend that?
I mean, it was great having him on my bench and not having to worry about the goals they were conceding. And he'll probably be on my bench again this week. So, yeah, he was great. Saved me like all that money that I can now put into another position. Yeah. So, no, I don't think they're the worst this week. If you're like me and you're looking for a keeper, potentially, I think Everson is not the worst option this week. With those fixtures, it might not be great, but it's not bad. I think
I've still got visions of Everson punching the ball out at Diaby's head and it going in from the Luton game.
Yeah, but I'm willing to sort of write that off with how good he's been. Yeah. I'm going to blame Diaby for that one. And with those opponents, maybe a defender, but I think really you'd be like someone like a Vandenberg, maybe. But I'd be looking at someone like Daniel Johnson this week. I think he could be a decent option, particularly for those looking for options for midfield dynamos. I think he's one that could potentially be an option. The next team we've got though is QPR. They have a double of Fulham at home and Sheffield United away.
It's a stay away, isn't it? Willock out.
Yeah, Willock's out. Marshall's out, so Kieran Westwood will be starting for them. I'm not even sure where else you would go at this point. Maybe Chair, but those fixtures, it's like you're not going to go there.
I'm just getting a bit worried about Warburton. It's like he doesn't know what to do at the minute. And for me, it's quite obvious. You play two up front and Chair in behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably be helped by the fact that Dykes came on for Scotland in their second friendly of the break, so that would imply that he might well be fit enough to start at the weekend, which would obviously be big for them. And for any hopes they might have is Dykes being able to play.
But I'm guessing Andre Gray's probably been away with Jamaica, so that doesn't help. Charlie Austin's been on TalkSport, so
and having a pop on Twitter.
Yeah, God, at his own fans.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Yeah, I saw that.
So if Dykes is fit enough to start, that could obviously make a big difference for them.
Oh, it will, yeah.
That's a big if. I think he only had about 25 minutes off the bench in the second friendly for Scotland. So
they're getting desperate though, Angus.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they are.
Yeah, they have to start getting points on the board, and I think it's why I would sort of steer clear of them this week, because those fixtures are not necessarily the place to do it, especially with Willock out for the rest of the season now. The next team we've got doubling are Reading, who have Barnsley away and Stoke at home. Dan, what do you think about Reading?
It's Swift, isn't it? If you've got Swift, play him. Don't hate bringing him in if you're going to play midfield dynamos. Can't look anywhere else, I don't think.
No love for Lucas Schwal?
I don't know. He's temperamental, isn't he?
I'll have to double check. Let's see if I can double check quickly. I know there are a couple of players that are going to be out.
Maite and Minamoto are out for the season, I think.
So obviously that would suggest more minutes for Joao in particular.
And Ince.
Yeah, Tom Ince. You can always rely on Tom Ince. But yeah, I'd probably be looking at John Swift, and like you say, I think he'd be a good one to have, I think, if you're going to play midfield dynamos. Those aren't necessarily easy fixtures, but again, it's one of the theoretically better doubles that a team has. So someone like him, he's capable in any game. So giving him sort of a pair of fixtures like that should theoretically make him a good option. But there might be better options, but he's the one to look at. Next one, we've got Sheffield United, who play Stoke away and QPR at home. Dan, what do you think about Sheffield United this week?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? We don't really know where they are with the fitness of a lot of their players. They did sign a centre-back. His name's eluded me.
Croatian, I think.
Yeah. Which, whether he's any good because he doesn't have a club this late in the season, it is one of those things. I'm guessing the main thing is Billy Sharp fit? I'm guessing it's going to be one of them where we won't know. I don't have Billy Sharp. I do have Gibbs White. I'm probably just going to go in with just Gibbs White, I think. Not looking to add anyone either, I don't think.
No, I mean, I've just got Gibbs White, and I'll be sticking on that. I think if someone has one of the defenders, one of the fit defenders, it might not be a bad play this week. But, I wouldn't be looking to get them in. And even then, someone like a Norrington Davies, like we've just seen in the last game before the break that Ender Stevens was back available. So is he even guaranteed to play?
Probably plays one, I'm guessing.
Yeah, if we get news, because obviously Heckingbottom hasn't had a press conference before we're talking, but I'd assume he'll have one before sort of the weekend. If he sort of gives the all clear for Billy Sharp, then that wouldn't necessarily be a problem having him this week.
But If I had Billy Sharp and I knew he was fit, I would not be selling him
No.
ahead of Stoke and QPR.
But if there's any sort of like ambiguity about it, I can totally
I think he has
understand
to go.
coming off him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gibbs White is the one where, and then, I mean, I suppose some people will have Fotheringham. That's a perfectly good double for someone like him as well. The next team we've got is Stoke, who are playing Sheffield United at home and Reading away. What are your thoughts on Stoke, Dan?
You can't trust them, can you? I've got Baker. Probably won't start. He's probably going to be one of my bench doublers, so he'll probably get a penalty and assist throughout the game week, and I'll just bench his points. But yeah, it's Baker for me. Whether his returns are sustainable, I don't think so. But because he's on pens, he could do nothing all game and still end up with a goal and bonus. So I think he's a good option.
Yeah, I mean, I still do like Jacob Brown as an option. He's still a midfielder sort of playing up front. He seems to be the most nailed one in the attack where there has been a bit of sort of changing. He's still played. And, those two fixtures, particularly if Sheffield United's sort of defensive issues aren't better, if they still have a number of those guys out, then that's not necessarily as bad as you might have thought. And Reading in the other one, it could be a decent week for him. But like you say, I wouldn't love going there. It would probably just be Baker, but I don't hate the idea of Jacob Brown this week. Next one we've got is Swansea. Their double is Cardiff away and Millwall away. Dan, what do you think about Swansea this week?
Don't love the fixtures.
Yeah.
I've got Patterson. That Cardiff game, I'm not convinced they'll beat Cardiff. They might score, and Mill's always tricky to go, isn't it? I've got Patterson. I'll probably play him. If you've got Christie, I think that's fine, but I wouldn't be bringing in, I don't think.
No, I think those are the two for me, because I know a lot of people are on Patterson. I think that's perfectly fine for Patterson, and Christie is the other one. And I think, we've seen those issues. We've seen those teams fail to score in plenty of games to the extent where someone like Christie is absolutely fine to have. But I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to add their players this week. And then the last team we've got doubling West Brom. They play Birmingham away and Bournemouth at home. What are your thoughts on West Brom this week, Dan?
I don't know. Do you know? I thought they beat Fulham and then they can't beat West. They had to
Bristol
score
City.
last minute, equalise against Bristol City. When you're relying on Adam Reach for a last minute goal, you're not in a good place, I don't think. I took the punt on Grant. He got a return, but I'm quite happy to get him out, especially for Mitrovic. I wouldn't be bringing anyone in. If you've got a Townsend still, don't hate it, but yeah, I wouldn't bring any in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing. If you've got them, it's not terrible. If you've got someone like Townsend, that's not terrible. Even someone like Grant, it's not terrible, but I wouldn't necessarily look at moving them. And Grant, I'd probably look at moving because I think there are better striker options. But if you've got someone like Townsend, I don't think that's necessarily terrible for this week. That's all the doublers for this week. So we will get into your questions first, and then we will do our match predictions. So I've lost the questions quickly. So going through these in no particular order. Again, it's just how they appear for me. Billy Hadaway has sent us a question. He said, with the following injury doubts in my team, Sharp, Patterson, Naismith, and he says, and McFadzean and Willock on his bench, what should his priorities for game week 40 be? So Dan, with Sharp, Patterson, Naismith, McFadzean, Willock, what would your priorities be?
Willock is gone. He's out for the season.
Yeah.
I would edge towards Sharp just because you need three strikers playing in Gaffr, especially this game week if you haven't got any boosts or anything like that. It would be Willock and Sharp. I think Patterson's going to play. It sounded just precaution. Naismith, I'd say is 50-50, but I think you might want him back later on in the season. And McFadzean's so cheap, he's fine to just sit on the bench. So Willock and Sharp for me, -4.
Yeah, I mean, I think seeing Russell Martin's comments, he said that Patterson might even have been able to play that game week 39 game. They just decided to not risk it with the sort of, I think he said it was a tight muscle that he had in the warm-up. So he should probably be fine. Like you say, Willock is the obvious sell because he's done. He's not coming back. I'd sell Sharp unless you get clarity that he's going to play. If Heckingbottom says, yeah, he's fine, he's going to play, then I'd keep him. At that point, I'd probably sell McFadzean because, you can probably move to another cheap defender that's more reliably going to play. I'd be keeping Naismith and I'd be keeping Patterson. So I'd definitely sell Willock, and then it depends on what Heckingbottom says about Sharp for me.
Yeah.
FPL Red Arrow, Robin, next question. He said he's sent us a screenshot of his team and says, is his bench right for Goalfest? So he's got Moore in goal. He's got Williams, McNair, Bree and Egan in defence, Harry Wilson, Brennan Johnson and Gibbs White in midfield, Mitrovic, Adebayo and Solanke in attack. And on the bench, he's got Swift, O'Hare and Lee Wallace. So do you think his bench is right in that situation for Goalfest?
Yeah, I think so. The only one might be to start Swift.
Yeah, I'd potentially look at starting Swift personally, maybe over Egan.
Yeah, I think the ceiling's a lot higher with Swift. Like, I think with Egan, you'll probably get 6 to 12 points.
And Swift might do that in one game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I think Swift in for Egan, that's what I would do. And then you're probably set there. So, yeah. And the next question we've got is from John Jacobson, who says, who to start out of Bialkowski or Fotheringham this week? So, obviously, Bialkowski has Luton and Swansea. Fotheringham has Stoke and QPR. So, which one would you start this week, Dan?
Bialkowski, I think.
Yeah, I think it's close, but I would probably edge towards him. But yeah, it's a very tough call. But yeah, I'd probably sort of lean that way as well. FPL Tangerine sent us a question. He's asked, who would you ship out of your team first? The troll Callum O'Hare, whose run-in isn't great anyway, or the annoying little shit Iliman Ndiaye, who loves a one-pointer off the bench? I didn't know anyone still owned Ndiaye.
It has to be Ndiaye, doesn't
it? Yeah, I think there's still something to be had from O'Hare, as much as we've called him a troll. Like, the returns are still there.
Especially for his price point.
Yeah.
O'Hare is good value.
And he's going to start. Ndiaye isn't in the starting lineup. I mean, it's almost just that simple. Like,
yeah.
Even if you went sideways from Ndiaye to Berg.
Yeah.
No, that's not the worst move. But yeah, Ndiaye is probably the one I'd be looking to sell first. Autoclose has asked us, what are your views on delaying midfield dynamos until game week 44? I don't hate it. I know I've talked before about the idea of midfield dynamos in 44. When I was looking at, before I decided to underhaul in 39, it was something I'd thought about after I played Goalfest in 36. With some of the doublers there, you can get a decent score out. it's tough because I do think that some of those midfielders do have good doubles this week. The likes of Brennan Johnson, John Swift, Harry Wilson. I think it's still a decent double. But yeah, it's certainly viable from my point of view. I don't know what you think about that.
I think I'd prefer 40. I think Fulham, Bournemouth and Forest in 44 just puts me right off. They could have already have won the title as well. I would play in 40, but maybe it's a differential to go for a punt. I don't hate it, but I would play it in 40, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 44, Brennan Johnson does have Peterborough as part of a double, and most importantly, Amin Bassi has a double, so, that might be what swings it.
But in 40, you've got players like talismans like Daniel Johnson and Swift, with decent, if you've got them.
Yeah.
If you don't have Swift or Daniel Johnson, that's a bit, or Patterson, that's a bit different.
Yeah. So it is a little bit team dependent, but if you're looking for something a bit different, or if you're not totally convinced about playing it this week for whatever reason, I don't mind waiting until 44 in that case, because I do think there's still some decent options that week. Non-stop FPL sent us a question saying, with budget in mind, who are the 5 lads we need this week for midfield dynamos? So we're going to struggle to narrow it down to 5, but if you were to pick out 5, Dan, who would you say?
So it's either Wallace or Wilson, because I doubt you'll be able to afford both. I would probably have, and the other 4 I would go for. Let me just go through quickly. Brennan Johnson, definitely. If I could choose, Swift as well. Gibbs White. Have I got one more?
Yeah.
Maybe Daniel Johnson. I think that'll be it. So probably either Wallace or Wilson, because they're expensive. Brennan Johnson, Daniel Johnson, Swift and Gibbs White would be my 5.
Yeah. I'll say Harry Wilson, Brennan Johnson, Gibbs White, Swift, and even though it's not the best double, I'm going to say Bowler. I like him, so I'm just going to throw him out there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's it's similar sort of thoughts about who the sort of main guys are for a midfield dynamos this week. The other fantasy game has sent us one saying he's playing the chips for the rest of the season. Boosts. How would you recommend playing them? I think if you've just started and you want to get a sort of taste for it to the end of the season, I'd be playing Goalfest in 40. I'd probably then play Jeepers Keepers in 44. And
would you? I think I'd play Jeepers Keepers in 45 because there's only one game.
Oh yeah, that's true actually. So you can play Jeepers Keepers in 45 and midfield dynamos in 44.
Yeah.
If you're starting now, because then in 45 you can play a Jeepers Keepers on. I've lost who the other keeper is that week.
Nottingham Forest.
That's it. So that good catch. FPL Buddy has asked us for the possible Willock replacements.
I think we named them, haven't we?
Yeah, I think it's all those guys. It's Brennan Johnson, Daniel Johnson, Swift, Bowler, Patterson, Carvalho, Gibbs White. It's all of them. And FPL Noble Gent has asked us which chip boost to use, home advantage or midfield dynamos.
This is easy. This is midfield dynamos because Because I don't think any team play 2 home games today.
Peterborough.
Peterborough, yeah. Whereas the other game week when Sheffield United had 2 home games, and I think Swansea, at least there was like a good team who played a bit more than one game, but it's midfield dynamos for me.
Yeah, and I mean in terms of the home advantage, just to put it into a little bit of perspective, that means you get no multiplier on the Fulham games. They're both away. You don't get Luton's game against Peterborough. You don't get Middlesbrough's game against Peterborough. You don't get Forest's game against Blackpool. You don't get Preston's game against Derby. You don't get Reading's game against Barnsley if you have someone like Swift. You don't get Sheffield United's game at Stoke. You don't, if you have Stoke, you don't get Stoke's game at Reading. Swansea 2 away games. So just with all of those that you're missing out on, to me, like not getting any multiplier on, I'd be looking at midfield dynamos there. I mean, I prefer midfield dynamos to home advantage anyway, but I just think that makes it that bit clearer almost as to why in this particular case, or helps to explain why it's a better way to go this week. So we'll finish off with the normal predictions and top point scorer from each game. We'll start on the Friday night with Hull against Huddersfield. So what do you think there, Dan?
Massive game for Huddersfield. Bit ropey before the international break. Luton played Hull just before the international break, and if Huddersfield just do the basics correctly, they'll win this game. So I'm going Huddersfield and Toffolo.
Yeah, I think Huddersfield will win this game. I'm gonna say Nichols.
So you're doing a pen save?
Yeah. So on the Saturday, you start with Blackpool against Forest.
Draw. I think with Forest injuries, a few of their players being away from international duty, I'm not sure away to Blackpool is the best game you want to come back to. Early lunchtime, it's built for an upset or so of. So I'll go for a draw, and I'm going to go for. Still going to go for Spence, but I think it'll be more like a tight game and could be 0-0 or
1-1. I'm still going to say Forest win, and I'm going to go for Keenan Davis. Then we've got Bournemouth against Bristol City.
Comfortable Bournemouth win. Solanke. This will be 3-4-1, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a Bournemouth win, and I think I'm going to have to go with Solanke in this one. Barnsley against Reading, the biggest game of the weekend.
Draw. I think that result just before the international break means Reading can draw this game. I think it'll be quite an entertaining game, and I'm going to go Swift.
I'm going to say Barnsley win, and I'm going to say Bassey Hall's on my bench.
I hope so. That'll make it interesting.
Yeah.
Especially, but yeah.
The next game we've got is the South Wales derby, Cardiff Swansea. What do you think there, Dan?
I think Cardiff win this. I think they can win this either way of playing nasty or playing football on the counter. I'm going to go Hugill and Cardiff win.
I'm going to say Cardiff win and drama. The next game we've got Coventry Blackburn.
Yeah. The first thing to say is Brereton Diaz. I think we mentioned it earlier on, or you did. Did start for Chile. I think he played 70, 80 minutes. So, are Blackburn really going to start him against this? I can't see it. I think Coventry win this, and I'm going to go Godden.
I think it's going to be a draw, and I think Maatsen would be the.
It'll be interesting if Dak plays.
Yeah.
I think they need to just start playing him.
Yeah. Next game is Derby Preston.
Probably an unhelpful draw. I'm going to go 0-0 Curtis Davis.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it feels like the obvious prediction to make in a Derby game is a draw. I'm gonna say Vandenberg. Next game is Luton Millwall.
Okay, I don't think we'll lose. If we've got some defenders, I think we'll just sneak it. So, because I think we will have a couple back, I'm going to go Luton and Bree.
I'm going to go with a draw, and I think Bree, but I'm going to say a draw in this one. Peterborough against Middlesbrough.
I'm going to go Middlesbrough. I think there'll be goals in it though. And I'm going to go... Is Spora back?
As of recording, I don't know.
Okay. I'll change. I'll go Matt Crooks will bully this Peterborough from set pieces.
I'm going to go Middlesbrough. I'm going to go McNair in the hope that Spora isn't back and he scores a penalty.
That's going to work soon. I've got to get him back in.
Yeah. I just keep calling it because it will have to happen at some point. The next one is QPR against Fulham.
I'm going to go Fulham. And I'm going to go Wilson.
I'm going to say Fulham and Mitrovic. Stoke against Sheffield United.
Draw. And I'm just because of the injuries to Sheffield United in the last few games have not been great away from home, Sheffield United. And I'm going to go Baker.
I'm going to say a draw as well. But I think Gibbs White will get it on the bonus, essentially. Maybe a return in there. On the Sunday, we've got Birmingham against West Brom.
This ain't on TV, is it, please?
Please
tell me
so.
they've just moved it because it's a derby, please. I can't deal with West Brom again. Draw. And I'm going to go Grant, even though I'm selling him.
Yeah, I don't think it's on TV because it's on at the same time as the Johnston's Paint Trophy final. Or the Papa John's. The Papa John's. So
you got your ticket, Angus?
I have. I'm going to Wembley on Sunday.
Sutton.
Yeah.
Super Sutton.
Who'd have thought it, eh? First year in the Football League and they're in the Wembley final. It appears it's not on TV, so there you go. I'm going to say West Brom because it doesn't make sense to pick them, and nothing with West Brom has really made sense recently. So I'm going to say West Brom, and I'm going to say Callum Robinson. On the Tuesday, we've got Preston against Blackpool.
Ooh, derby. I'm going to say Blackpool. Just because I just think Preston are going to try a few things out. And I'm going to go Medine.
Yeah, I'm going to go Blackpool, and I'm going to say Bowler because I have to pick him in one of them. Sheffield United QPR.
Sheffield United and Gibbs White.
Yeah, I think Sheffield United probably have enough for that one, and I'm going to go Berger. Millwall against Swansea.
Millwall, they're going to cause havoc from set pieces, so Jed Wallace.
I'm going to do my sort of regular bit, and I'm going to pick Millwall, and I'm going to pick Murray Wallace. Peterborough against Luton.
Luton, I think they're going to play out from the back, will suit us. And I'm going to go Cornick.
Yeah, that's the same pick for me. Luton and Cornick. Reading against Stoke.
Oh, God. God. This is the hardest one. Reading and Zhao.
I'm going to say a draw. Who's the most useless pick to be the top point scorer?
Chester.
James Chester. I'm going to say...
Dom.
I'm going to say Baker. But
he's not useless.
No, I was going to say the most useless one, and then I was like, no, that's a bit much. But I'll say Baker and a draw. On the Wednesday, we've got Middlesbrough against Fulham.
Ooh, love this game. Borough and Jones.
I'm going to say a draw. And I wish I hadn't used up my McNair pick on the other one now. I'm going to say a draw, and I'm going to say Harry Wilson. Forest against Coventry.
Ooh, I'll tell you, these three games, interesting on Wednesday. Coventry away aren't they great? It's going to be Forest at home. That full crowd of Forest. Brennan Johnson.
I'm going to say Forest, and I'm going to say Brennan Johnson as well. And West Brom Bournemouth.
West Brom. Just because it's West Brom against they beat Fulham, and their squad can beat Bournemouth. West Brom. Robinson.
I'm going to say a draw, which means I've predicted West Brom to get 4 points in this game week. And I am going to say Townsend. So that's all the games. So, yeah. I'll be updating the injury news ahead of Friday's deadline. Probably in between my work tasks. Given that I've got to sort of update all of them. Obviously, it's a full sort of double game week. We'll be back.
Probably Thursday.
Yeah, probably Thursday to do sort of it'll probably be a shorter sort of Q&A in between two game weeks as we would normally do following a double game week. I'm just trying to think whether... so the next game week's kicks off on Saturday, I believe. We've got until the Saturday for that one, so that's a bit more handy. But yeah, so we'll be back probably on Thursday for a sort of Q&A almost in between. But yeah, so thank you for listening, and we will speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Unbelievable!